my spare time, I lead around these wonderful people who are our Unit 2 judges. Are you our Unit 2 contestants?
Yes.
Perfect. I'll let them introduce themselves and best of luck to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, Missouri, and congratulations on making it to today. And we're looking forward to hearing from you on Unit 2. But first, of course, we'll introduce ourselves and then hear who you are. My name's Andy Levy. I'm a trial lawyer from Baltimore, and I also teach at the University of Maryland School of Law.
Good morning, Missouri. My name is Madeline Dunn, and I am an historian for Delaware's Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs.
Hi, I'm John Kaminsky, Director of the Center for the Study of the American Constitution at the University of Wisconsin in Madison.
Hi, my name is Nick Arnold, and like my colleagues, I am a senior at Westminster Christian Academy, and next fall I will be attending Vanderbilt University.
Hi, my name is Cheyenne Bartlett, and next year I will be attending Texas Christian University.
Hi, my name is David Rashi. Next year I'll be attending Washington University in St. Louis. At this time I'd like to introduce my coach, Ken Bash.
Hello. Okay, well, I guess it's not much mystery what the question is, but for the benefit of the gallery in particular, let me read it. Unit 2, how did the framers create the Constitution? Question 2 begins with a quote from R.V. Bernstein. Although posterity has tended to emphasize the work of the Constitution's framers in the Federal Convention of 1787, the ratification of the U.S. Constitution in 1787 and 1788 was a landmark in the history of government. What evidence can you offer to support or dispute this claim? In what ways, if any, was the plan for ratification an example of social contract theory? And what precedents were established by the ratification process, and why have they continued to be important? Now we'll be happy to hear your opening statement.
We agree with Bernstein's claim that the ratification of the United States Constitution was a landmark in the history of government. First, the government created following the ratification of the Constitution was the first modern political system to be created, not transformed. At that time, the vast majority of first world nations operated under governments that simply evolved over time, holding true to traditional constructs. For example, Great Britain operated under an unwritten constitution, comprised of documents accumulated throughout its government's history, such as the Magna Carta and the English Bill of Rights.
Second, the ratification of the Constitution created the first successful large-scale republic in the history of the world. While Rome is often considered to hold that position, it only succeeded in expanding its power and influence following Julius Caesar's coup d'etat. The opposite is true for the United States, who only began its progression from a mere colony into a world power following the ratification of the Constitution.
Lastly, the methods used to ratify the United States Constitution were so influential that they have been adopted by other governing bodies. The Treaty of Lisbon, signed on December 13, 2007, helped centralize power in the European Union using a similar ratification process. Each member state ratified the treaty individually, and many called for popular input, such as Ireland's national referendum and other nations' consultative referendums.
The plan for ratification of the Constitution was a superb example of the correct application of Locke's social contract theory. First, the ratification process was the first time in history that the fate of the national government was placed almost solely in the people's hands. Prior to 1787, only Massachusetts and New Hampshire had brought proposed constitutions to the people for approval, and the practice was unheard of in the rest of the world, especially at a national level. James Madison approved this unprecedented display of democracy, saying that the Constitution is, quote, nothing unless it be stamped with the approbation of those to whom it is addressed.
Second, the ratification process allowed for a social contract between the government and the states, not just the citizenry. A social contract is a delegation of authority to a higher power in order to maintain an appropriate social order, and the ratification of the Constitution led to a massive loss in state sovereignty. For example, the states ceded the power to tax, to retain militarily autonomous, the sole control over their population, and countless other once exclusive powers to the national government.
Lastly, the ratification of the Constitution directly affirmed people's fundamental rights, a critical aspect of social contract theory. In order to hasten the ratification process and win over crucial anti-Federalist votes at the ratifying conventions, the Federalists made the Massachusetts Compromise. The Constitution would be ratified, but a Bill of Rights would be added via amendment at the first United States Congress.
There were three primary precedents established by the ratification process, which continue to be important today. First, the new process of ratification led to the expansion of citizens' voting rights. The majority of elections held during this time period restricted voting rights by social class, wealth, or property. However, several states waived voting restriction and allowed a uniquely broad class of citizens to vote for ratification convention delegates. For example, New York allowed all free adult male citizens to vote for the first time, setting the stage for future increases in voting privileges.
Second, ratification also broke new ground by establishing that the people's right to alter government was not contingent on past tyranny. It showed that the people could properly amend whenever they deemed the current system outdated or imperfect, and to do so with ballots rather than bullets. This is in direct contrast to the Lockean philosophy previously exhibited in the Declaration of Independence's long train of abuses.
Lastly, it established the idea that ordinary citizens could be exposed to and involved in important political debate and decisions. The Federalist and Anti-Federalist arguments spread throughout the states, creating a truly nationwide debate. This can be seen today in the recent town hall meetings where citizens gathered to debate healthcare reform with their representatives, adhering to the Anti-Federalist belief in discussion and deliberation.
We are now ready for your follow-up questions.
Do you think that the decision to put this to a vote of referenda of the people or conventions was just an exercise in good government, or was it a nakedly political decision that was then wrapped in self-serving statements?
I think that there were definite political motives in bringing it to the people. Madison was no defender of democracy. He was not a huge proponent of citizens' voting rights, but he still was a firm advocate in bringing it to the people because he recognized that without the people's approval, it was essentially just a revolution in the higher stages of government, and that the people's vote and their approval was necessary to legitimize the new government.
Additionally, the Constitution being ratified with the people also gave them the power to say what their government would be. In the Declaration of Independence, they were asserting their rights over the British Parliament and how they were trampling their perceived actions. And so their actions in voting in the Constitution was definitely a step in the right direction in setting off our democracy.
Also, the preamble of the Constitution very formally established the idea of we the people. The government is for the people, by the people, and in order for it to be legitimate in any way, as my colleague said, it must be ratified and approved by the people.